So, first of all, I wanted to just extend a very warm welcome to you all for joining us today. We're really lucky to have three members of our National Physical Activity Advisory Group, all of whom are experts by experience and have kind of various expertise around kind of physical activity and mental health. So that is Andrea. Andrea, if you'd like to kind of give everybody a wave.
Hi.
Hamid, who's joining us by phone, so he may not have his camera on, but Hamid, if you'd like to say a quick hello to everybody.
Hello everyone, it's Hamid Khan here, and it's a pleasure to join this group today.
Fantastic, thanks Hamid. And last but not least, Naomi.
Hello.
Brilliant. Thank you. Just before we kick off in earnest, just a few tips over Zoom. So as I say, if you can keep your microphones on mute, that would be fantastic. If for any reason, obviously you need to step away. And if you feel like you want to sort of switch your camera off, then obviously more than happy for you to do that. I want to make sure that you're as comfortable in this call as absolutely possible. If you do have any questions or any comments that you'd like to raise, then there is a chat function in Zoom. So at the bottom of your screen, you should see a little speech bubble, and if you click on that speech bubble, then that will pop up a chat window on the right hand side where you can just type in your question or whatever or comment. So we are here to obviously talk about or to speak with our advisory group members about kind of their experiences around physical activity and well-being, and especially how it's been for them over the last few months. But I thought to give you some context, to give you a bit of background on why Mind has a national physical activity advisory group. It's a bit of a mouthful. The reason is that we knew from the outset that we wanted to ensure that lived experience was at the very heart of everything that we do, and not just us, but also in helping to shape our work, but that of our partners in the sport and physical activity sector. So about 18 months ago, we recruited 12 experts by experience, all of who are kind of in different parts of the country, and to say have different experiences around physical activity and mental health and well-being. Some work in in either or both sectors, and others have kind of more of an informal relationship. So again, the reason why we set up the group is because on the slide that you can see here is the kind of model of lived experience in engagement, which at Mind we see as on different levels. So kind of at level 1, where it's more about kind of sort of asking people questions through surveys, and as you go up the levels, then the level of engagement and leadership that experts by experience have increases. So we wanted to be working right at that top level, levels 4 and 5, which I've circled, where we're working with experts by experience to actually co-produce and co-deliver our work. So we've got about an hour, so we'll be running from about well, obviously from 2 o'clock till 3 o'clock. We've got a few obviously questions for our speakers, and thank you so much for everybody who sent through a question in advance. An hour it will run by really quickly, and we hope that you enjoy the time with us. So we will be sticking around between 3 and 3:30 to answer kind of any questions that you have that we might not be able to cover during the main session. It's still maybe that we can't cover everything, but we will record all of the questions that you send through to us, and we will, if everybody's happy to maybe wait for responses, then we'll be able to circulate those questions between our team, the physical activity team, and also the experts by experience. I think also one thing I have just realised is that I've gone up at such a pace and introduced our speakers for today that I haven't introduced myself. So my name is Tony Lee, and I'm a community delivery lead with the Mind Physical Activity team, and I am your chair for today. So just to kind of give you a brief overview of kind of three of the kind of key questions that we're going to be asking our speakers. So first of all, we're going to be looking at their relationship with physical activity and mental health, and how that's changed and been maintained over the last 3 months. Looking at how they have maintained social networks whilst physically distancing, and also I think a call out to colleagues in the physical activity sector about how they have, what extra things they can do to support people with mental health problems to be more active. So I think first of all, so you gave a quick introduction to our advisory group members, but maybe if I can ask Naomi, Andrea and Hamid, if I ask you kind of each in turn to kind of, I suppose, give a bit of background about yourselves, kind of your relationship around physical activity, and why you got involved in Mind's advisory group. So Andrea, if I could start with you, if that's okay.
That's fine. So why did I get involved with physical activity advisory group? It's because in 2015 I was diagnosed with a mental health illness, and my background in education, I was advised to go to the gym, and I didn't understand why the doctor was telling me that. So I went to the gym and subsequently decided that I was going to train to do something more than just go to the gym. I decided I was going to train to go into a bodybuilding competition. Long story short, I am now a British champion bodybuilder. And as a result of my illness, I unfortunately resigned from my role as a secondary school teacher. But fortunately for me and everybody else that I work with now, I'm now the founder of my Focus on Creating Your Ultimate Self, CIC, which is about educating and empowering young women and girls about the benefits and importance of physical and mental health. I also founded the Youth Fitness Mentoring Program. And so I'm so grateful to have found the connection between physical activity and mental health, and how it really does help you in, the holistical view of your whole body, your mind and your body. And when I found out about Mind's advisory board, I couldn't wait to fill out the application form to get on the boards, because it's just something so great that Mind is doing, and I wanted to be a part of it. So that's literally how I came a part of Mind and why I came a part of Mind and what I do.
Fantastic, thanks, Andrea. Naomi, can I ask you the same questions?
Okay, so a bit of kind of my background is I've had mental health conditions since I was quite young, and when I was at university I decided to start running just on a bit of a whim, and I found that it had such a huge impact on my mental health. It was kind of the only time that I'd find calm and peace in my world. And when I heard about the Physical Activity Advisory Board, I really wanted to kind of share, I guess, my experience to help support others in using physical activity to support their mental health, because it's such an important part of my life. And I kind of see with family and friends how much of a difference it makes to their mental health, just whether or not they have a diagnosed condition. So in terms of like what I kind of do, I run a lot. I recently ran 100k raising money for Mind last year. Cycle, walking, yoga, pretty much anything I'll give a go. But generally a lot of stuff I'll do in kind of isolation or with friends, nothing kind of formal through gyms or anything.
Brilliant. Thanks, Naomi. And then finally, Hamid. Hi, Hamid. Are you?
Hello, hi everyone. Basically, my name's Hamid Khan, and I got involved in the Sports and Physical Activity Alliance because, first of all, I had a hidden interest because I was part of a sports and physical activity partnership in Manchester many years ago, which was talking about how to engage with people who are not traditionally engaging in sports and physical activities. However, the reason why I joined from a mental health perspective is because I've suffered from mental health issues and I care for my mom who has mental health difficulties. And I became very clear in understanding that when my level of physical fitness improved, my mental well-being also improved. So I saw definitely an interconnection. I thought, I'd like to get involved in this and see how I can influence policies and strategies and techniques and methods to engage and influence wider audience, people with mental health problems, to take up physical activities, but also ensure that leisure centers, health and well-being centers, sports centers kind of make their environments more inclusive for people with mental health problems. Thank you.
Sorry, it's on mute. Sorry, Hamid. I was just wondering if I could ask you a bit of a follow-up question. But so since you've been part of the advisory group, I mean, what kind of sort of activities have you found kind of really you know, engaging? What does it mean to you to be part of the group, and what the benefits that you can see?
One of the things that I'm very proud of and very pleased to be involved in is that it's a place where I feel valued, equal around the table, and very safe space to not be afraid or ashamed to speak about my mental ill health and also my mom's. So that was the reason why I like this group, because it's a very transparent, open environment where we can be honest with each other to have a wider impact on improvements in leisure industry.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hamid. If I could, yeah, if I could open that question up to Naomi, kind of what, how have you, I say enjoyed being part of the group? What's been your experience so far?
I've really enjoyed kind of feeding into things like outside of our kind of typical meetings, so like reviewing sessions online to see if they'd be suitable for people to try, helping with developing some of the modules for the sport and physical activity, mental health, learning. It's a very long title.
Yes. What are you learning? Yeah.
But yeah, being able to kind of have an input that will directly come back round to myself, my friends, my family, and just, yeah, it's seeing how important it is, not kind of only on like a small scale, but on a big scale as well.
Brilliant. Thanks, Naomi. And Andrea, is there anything that you want to add about your own experiences so far?
Yeah, just being part of sessions like this, you know, taking part in the webinar, having that opportunity, the diversity of the group itself, you know, we all have our own uniqueness, and that is great. And like Amit said, just having that safe space to talk about your own mental ill health and those of people that are close to you as well. And just knowing that what we're doing is not only helping ourselves, but we're helping so many people, you know, so around the world. So it's amazing to be a part of such an organization.
I think something that I'd like to add as well, that has been quite powerful, is like back in October of last year, we had a meeting, and quite organically we started talking about, you know, obviously there's a lot of kind of provision out there for people who, if they want to be part of a group session, especially kind of face-to-face group sessions. But how do we engage with people who might find it difficult to leave the home, or not want to take part in a group session? So actually, we've been it was through that meeting that I think you as members challenged us to think about that, like long before we were in the coronavirus pandemic that we see ourselves now. So I think it's definitely thanks to you as a group for helping us to look at that. And I think in that respect we were potentially a little bit more prepared in a way for thinking about how we can engage people who may not be able to leave their home for one reason or another. I think just sort of talking about your experiences with with getting active. I'd be really interested to find out kind of more about obviously there's the side, there's the kind of the fitness or the exercise side of getting active, but there are a whole range of benefits, and just trying to find out kind of what being active means to you, and how how your relationship, if it has changed over the last 3 months, whilst physical distancing measures have been in place. So Naomi, can I direct that question to you, please?
Yep. So I think the main impact that kind of lockdown has had is that a lot of my physical activity, so I'm part of a running group, and not being able to kind of meet with that, like a lot of physical activity is just as much physical as social, and not being part of a group of people like cheering you on and running alongside you has been quite significant. And also I was injured at the beginning of lockdown, so spent a month not being able to do any physical activity. So it was all around kind of how do you reframe what physical activity is. So I started doing a lot of walking, just listening to podcasts, listening to audiobooks, and then it was kind of, it's that need to adapt in a different situation as well, so that I couldn't go anywhere to do exercise, so I'd have to adapt and do it at home, whether that was on a turbo trainer or just doing star jumps around the garden. It was just a variety of different things, and it was about just giving things a go. Like some did not stick, but some did, and like even now I still walk my commute to work every day and back before I start work. It's just trying to get some sort of a new routine in, knowing that everything's a bit different as well. I think we've lost Tony. Andrew, do you want to go?
Let me come off of mute. So for me, as I mentioned, I'm a bodybuilder, so it means I'm in the gym all the time. But due to lockdown, that all the gyms had closed, so that wasn't possible for me to do. But I quickly adapted, although it's not the same. But I started taking up different things. But most importantly, the work that I do with the young people, it also involved me using the facilities of a gym, and that stopped. So that was my main priority and concern, is that the work that I was doing, not just because I was not being paid, but the young people were not able to have access to my services. And I know how much physical activity means to your physical health and your mental health. So I can only imagine what they had been going through throughout this time. But I, like yourself, have taken up different things, different activities. I was going for walks, so I found new spaces where I lived. It was amazing to find and explore. As the 5 ways to well-being says, like, keep learning, and that is something that I've definitely learned about my area. Taken up yoga, and most recently Tai Chi. So trying to just incorporate different forms of activity just to keep my body moving.
Shall I go next?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. I think for me, the lockdown was quite difficult because as a carer, the gym and the sauna and the swimming pool became my lifeline, where I would get a couple hours switch off time from being a carer. So with the lockdown, everything being closed, it was very difficult because even if you did go for alternative ways of exercising, like going for walks or accessing your local park, it felt like a ghost town because you hardly saw many people. And if you did, people didn't really communicate and kept their distance. So it was very difficult to motivate myself to do any kind of exercises because there was no motivation or inspiration around. And I think when the first phase of lockdown came to an end and the second phase started, where we can go out as long as we stay alert, our parks became quite an inspirational place because a lot more people are running, jogging, walking, doing other forms of sports. So I kind of feel like now it's going to be difficult for me to pay my membership to a gym because I'm so used to now doing exercise for free in my local park. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It's Sam Perks here from Mind. I'm Sector Support Lead. Tony fell out of Zoom somehow. Not sure how he managed it, but I think he's back in. Are you there, Tony?
Yes, I apologise, everybody. Zoom obviously didn't like me, at least for a few seconds. So I apologise for that.
No problem, Tony. We're just on to the sort of second question: how the members have maintained their social networks whilst physically distancing.
Brilliant, thanks, Sam. So just to Naomi, Andrea, have you sort of answered this question already? Sorry, missing.
We haven't.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Just about to.
Okay, Naomi, would you be happy talking about that? Thanks.
So I had an added complication to maintaining social networks in the fact that I moved 2 weeks before lockdown started, so I didn't know anyone where I was kind of located, so I had to get pretty creative. Stuff with family, like I did the 3 Peaks challenge with my family on the stairs, and we'd log every day how many times we'd climbed the stairs until we'd completed the 3 mountains. And so that technology became a huge part of that. I do classes with my mum, so we both like press play on the YouTube video at the same time, and we're doing a class over Skype, and just bits like that. And also I've had to reach out to the new running club where I live and be like, look, I'm new here, I don't know anyone, can you like match me up with anyone and go for a run? I've actually been able to make, since the restrictions changed, you can do 2 meters distance running, actually been able to meet up with brand new people and explore where I live, which has been, that's been incredible, but took a lot of courage and a lot of time for me to actually put myself out there. But I know it means that I'll be in a better place when we actually can restart everything going on, because I know people now where I live, which has made more of a difference to my physical and mental health, because it's about having connections with people, and equally not getting lost where I live is a massive benefit of that too.
Brilliant, thanks, Amy. I just wanted to ask, I mean, obviously there was the point between you wanting to sort of to get back out, but obviously feeling quite nervous about that. I mean, what kind of helped at the beginning to kick you off on that journey to getting back outside?
I think it was kind of part of the understanding that you've got to do what works for you now. So you're kind of scrapping everything you've done before. Like I was so used to a routine of like, I'd run to work, I'd run in training sessions, I'd do certain things, and it kind of was stripping it right back and being like, today all I can do is walk to the end of my road and back, and we'll make little steps to get there, rather than thinking I've got to do everything I used to do. And it was all about that kind of the gradual build up to get your confidence back. And then as that went over time, then it was connecting with people as well. So just it was doing what works in any given moment, and not being too hard on yourself for that either. Like not having to be like, I need to be running 100k this week, because it just wasn't realistic.
I think that's really important, because you know, now is, you know, the times are not the same as they were 3 or 4 months ago. So having the same level of expectations can be really, I suppose, daunting and challenging on yourself. So yeah, working with your mood and what you feel comfortable and what you feel is right at the time is very important. And Andrea, if I could turn to you for this question, please.
So for me, I invested in a watch that I just don't have on today, but to calculate my steps. I thought, okay, I could do what most people do and complaining that there wasn't any gyms, and that wasn't going to help anything, because the amount of complaining is still not going to get the gyms open, because they're still not open. So I decided to say, okay, I wasn't going to compete this year anyway, so it wasn't really that much of an issue for me. But if I was competing, I probably would have been a bit anxious. But I decided, okay, I'm going to go on a new venture. I'm going to, like I mentioned in my last answer, I'm going to go and learn new things. So like I mentioned about taking up yoga, exploring my area with the walking. But in terms of socially, I have a friend who has she does fitness via Zoom. So I was following her for a bit. Now she's gone on to working in parks. So I'm lucky to have be around people that provide that service. Although I can do it for myself, being a qualified personal trainer, but it is also nice to be part of a team, like a team virtually, a virtual team, to go along and do it with others. So for me, and that was a new way of learning, because I'm always in the gym, so doing something online, exercising and workouts that I'm not normally used to doing, like body weight, was a new way of working, and it does actually work. So I'm a new advocate for body weight exercises, and I became a TRX instructor as well, so a suspension trainer. So I now have that to use, and that can be used outside or in the home. So like I said, I've just been exploring new avenues, and it's been exciting.
Yeah, no, it certainly sounds like it. And is there anything that you have done so over the last 3 months that kind of wasn't in your plans before then, or you might not have tried before lockdown?
Yeah, like I said, like the TRX, Tai Chi now, yoga I've dabbled, but I'm able to stay in certain poses for a lot longer and don't look too twisted. So I can do yoga poses. So that definitely is something for me that I probably wouldn't have done if lockdown didn't happen. And the exploring of my area as well, that has the exploring of my area has been something that opened my eyes up to a new way. I did literally on my doorstep, and it was a whole field and canal didn't know existed. So that has been amazing for me. So yeah, and I probably wouldn't have noticed that if this hadn't happened, because you're so busy in the car or going here, going there, and you don't get to do these things.
Oh, brilliant. It's a bit like Naomi, you're able to explore your area a little bit more.
Yeah, even though I've been here for a lot longer than what Naomi has in her area, but that's probably shameful to say.
Oh, I don't think so. I think we tend to overlook what's on the doorstep a lot of the time. So
yeah.
And I suppose just also thinking about when, not just from the last 3 months, but from kind of previous experience, and when you have we all have those days when for whatever reason we're feeling tired, or we're just not feeling well, or not really motivated for whatever reason it might be. And we've a few people have asked questions ahead of the session about what kind of things work to sort of help you feel a bit more motivated and sort of ready to try being active that day. So I was just wondering if I could start with Andrea, if you've got any tips or hints you'd like to share with people.
Firstly, I would say that this has been a great time for me to really listen to my body and just rest, and not always feel obligated and pressured to have to do something. And so there may be some days that I may feel tired, and I said, okay, either I go on a walk later or I just won't go on the walk, or maybe I do whatever it was I would, because I normally like to do things in the morning. But one thing that I have been doing that has really helped me is meditation. And as the days have gone on, the meditation can last a lot longer, because you know, I'm more used to just laying there just in silence and just really taking it in, and not being subjected to what's going on around me. So I think that is really been, this time has really been helpful for things like that, to really align myself with myself. And just,
there's a couple of online, particularly the one that National Mind has developed, you can actually do exercises by watching a YouTube videos. And that was quite fun, because I care for my mom who's quite elderly, and sometimes I'll find that she's stressing me or irritating me by getting paranoia, because that's part of her condition. So I will put on a YouTube for yoga or light armchair exercises or something, and me and her will do it together. So that was quite a nice way of family bonding on something positive. And on the other hand, I used to like, which I found quite inspirational, was when I would look at my window, I would see people going down my street, either jogging or taking their dogs for a walk, or, you know, running. And I thought, oh, this is quite nice. So at days, I would get myself in the right gear, I would call it, just to look like I'm part of the group, or part of the, well, not part of the group, but part of the community. So I'll get myself in my cycling gear and get my bike cycle out and kind of just ride around the local area, which I haven't done before the lockdown. So it was quite interesting how we were imitating our neighbors and people in our community, and suddenly cycling became part and parcel of me keeping my well-being. So definitely, I think that the lockdown encouraged me to think creatively in keeping active.
Thanks, Hamid. I mean, it's great as well. I mean, another example of, you know, being able to explore your area, but also that you were able to, you know, find activities that you can do with your, you know, with your mother. And I think I've heard that from a few other sort of people, you know, over the last few weeks, is that, you know, it's helped to bring families to be active together and kind of bond and do something to pass the time, you know, as a group. And finally, Naomi, if I could sort of turn to you, yeah, what helps you to get started when you may not be quite feeling in the mood?
I think mine was a bit of kind of that reframing exercise. Like I moved away from my family rather than closer to them. So I used to go, rather than just like phoning them, I'd phone like my mum, and we'd both walk at the same time, just wherever we were. So it kind of felt like the kind of normal routine of we're going on a walk together, but we were both quite far apart at the same, and that just made like just building a connection. And also getting a bit creative. So I took up gardening, which my family think is hilarious. I am a routine plant picker, and you're just getting out in the garden and doing stuff like that is going to be a bit different. And things like, so I normally work in London, which does involve me walking across London, lots of kind of busy lifestyle, going out for lunch and stuff. And it was trying to build those things back in. So sometimes I'll just walk to the shops to buy a sandwich and then come back home and eat it. And it's just getting those kind of little bits and pieces in, rather than just being like, we spend so much time stuck at home. It was all about like, yeah, I want to get out. I want to kind of see where I am and just try some different things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, you know, the point about gardening is really, that's quite, you know, really interesting. It's obviously a lot of people who, you know, they may not be kind of struck by kind of more traditional sports, but, you know, gardening is a great way to get active, but, you know, you're in the middle of nature as well, so you get that kind of added benefit of the greenery and the animals around you. So no, that's
one other thing I did was I took up a bit of DIY. So my entire house has been painted, sanded floors and stuff. The jobs that you just never get done, that require a bit of kind of effort and energy, it just gave me a chance to do those, and the house is better for it as well. So I feel better about my living environment, and it kept me busy.
Did you find the DIY was good for your well-being?
Oh, very therapeutic painting. I love it.
Brilliant. Fantastic. I'd like to just sort of change tack a little bit. So thinking about kind of what's already available, what the kind of the sport physical activity sector is already doing, and what else potentially could could they be doing to support people to be more active. I don't know. Again, sort of starting with Hamid, if I could go to you first. Is there anything do you have any kind of asks for the sector at large?
I think one of the things I would like to ask for the sector is that now that we are coming out, or not coming out, but easing from the lockdown, is that we need to, it was a time for reflection, time for mapping out where there's gaps, where there's barriers, where there's things that are not getting people encouraged into the exercise world. How can we create a momentum to get people active again? And maybe, it'd be nice if there was some kind of funding being allocated to small groups to start their own little local physical activities in their local parks, in their local community, rather than always heavily relying on leisure centers and gyms and saunas and swimming pools. Maybe we as a community need to mobilize ourselves and think about what can we do to encourage physical activities without using organizations as such, but really getting the people in the community. Like, for example, one of the person I know in my neighborhood, he started a jogging group just because he used to go jogging on his own, but because of the lockdown, he's realized there was many people that wanted to do jogging but didn't have the confidence to go on their own. So he started taking people on a little jog every Tuesday evening. So things like that would be great, I think, definitely. And the sector sending out strong messages about how we can re-encourage and re-engage with people back into the physical activities environments after the lockdown.
Brilliant. Thanks, Hamid. And can I just also ask you if there's anything that you've seen sort of in the last sort of 12 months that the sector has been doing, which you found like really encouraging?
I think, yes. I think, first of all, I would like to say one of the things that's come encouraging in the last 12 months is that we've kind of interconnected different campaigns. Like there's one now, the We Are Defeatable coming up. There's also the stuff that was happening with the football, the Football Associate Alpha, whatever they call it, and different initiatives that are happening. And also, I think one of the good things that's coming out is that the organizations who provide sports and physical activities are coming forward to say, we want to make our environments more inclusive for people with mental health problems. And that's something I've started to see in the last 12 months, more and more coming forward on the agenda. Prior to 12 months before, it wasn't as, there was talk about increasing diversity, but not specifically talking about people with mental health problems. So I think that's something I'm very pleased and proud of, that's really kind of brought the sports and physical activity group that we're part of is kind of pushing that forward.
Thank you, Hamid. Andrew, if I could ask you a kind of a related question, obviously being an instructor with lots of experience, what to you what do you think is what makes a really good session and a good experience for people?
I think from what I know, with the young, especially when I'm working with young people, it's making it enjoyable and asking for their opinion and what they want to do. So for me personally, when I do my sessions, it's not, oh yeah, I have to have my own structure, but I like to really engage with my end users and ask them, what, like beforehand, what is it that you like to do? What is it that you want to do? Is there anything that you haven't done that you like to do? So really you know, engaging with your end users so that they feel like they have, you know, got something out of this, rather than you just saying, no, yeah, this is what we're going to do. Obviously, if it's a specific class that you're going to, then it has to follow a certain structure. But with me and the work that I do with the young people, it's a lot about informing them about the different forms of physical activity. Yes, I go to the gym, and yes, I am a bodybuilder, but I don't train or work with anybody to do that. I work with young people to help them to use physical activity as a avenue to, you know, to show them different avenues for their mental health, for their aggression that they may have, just a way, you know, to just release and to gain those endorphin feelings. So I think that, like, I mean, I think primarily it's all about communication and knowing that your end user is happy with what they're doing, and always asking questions like, is this okay? Can it be made easier? Can it, you know, is it harder? And certain things like that. So I think it's not always about thinking that everybody is at my level, because I never do. I always make sure, and that's one thing when I'm working with clients, it's always that, just don't see me as the muscular woman who can do so many different things. Just, this is not what I want from you. So, and that's why we called focus, because it's all about focusing on them and their selves. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, that obviously really important point in going back to, you know, something that we kind of discussed right at the beginning about, you know, working kind of with people to find out, you know, what's going to work for them, and actually, you know, I think, you know, if you can you know, if you're looking at a session or maybe a program of sessions, actually, you know, sitting down with your audience and saying, okay, so, you know, how should we design this? You know, how should it work? What's going to work for you? What kind of support, and what's you know, not necessarily going to work as well.
Yeah, and I think for me, working with a lot with young people with in fitness, it's about giving them a voice, and I feel like that's very, very important, because a lot of the time they're not heard, and there's a lot of statistics about what physical activity can do for adults, but not so much as what it can do for young people. And we are actually having a project where it's specifically targeted at BAME young women and girls, because they are statistically proven to be less active than the communities as a whole. So it's really being able to identify these things and knowing who to target and why. And yeah, just to grow the community and making sure that everyone has an equal footing in physical activity, because it should be that way.
Fantastic, thanks, Andrea. And then Naomi, be really interested to kind of hear your thoughts. I suppose, you know, what's worked well. What have you seen? What kind of changes have you seen the sector take over the last 12 months? And, you know, what have you been encouraged by? And is there anything more that you feel could be done?
I think one of the things that I've really been encouraged by is how the physical activity sector is now recognising more that people engage in physical activity for other reasons than to just lose weight. And that focus has really kind of shifted with, so I work with England Athletics. I'm a mental health champion with them. And we run events in running clubs, which are all about just getting people talking and socializing, because recognizing that's a huge part as to why most people join a club. They join because of helping obviously keep their physical activity like in check, but the social side of it and the mental health side of it is such a key part of that. And seeing sectors kind of just step up and be like, yeah, that these things matter. I found that really encouraging, and like it's now involved in lots of training around mental health and physical activity as well. And what I've kind of found is when I've done these kind of talks and things, everyone gets on board, and you see so many people that are like, I'm not here to like win a race. I'm not here to be the next Usain Bolt. I'm here because I genuinely enjoy this thing, and I'm here because it makes a difference to my life, not just in aesthetics, but in terms of how I feel inside and how calm I may be.
Fantastic. Thanks, Naomi. I think that's really important, and obviously acknowledging the fact that lots of people come to this from, you know, with many different kind of reasons for doing it, and from different starting points, as Andrea highlighted. And again, that's one thing that I suppose comes out when you do talk to people and kind of shape sessions with your audience, is that you start with their values and what's important to them, and then build the physical activity around that. And I think that's something that we've seen works really well at Mind in the work that we do. I am conscious of time. I think we've got about sort of 10 minutes left. So I think one thing that I'd be keen to just quickly ask as well is, obviously there's a lot of online sessions out there, which are absolutely fantastic. But is there anything that you've seen, you've experienced, or any ideas that you've had about how we can really engage people who may not be able to access the the internet, might not be online, and potentially may not feel comfortable going to group sessions. So I just thought I'd throw that out there to our speakers. If anybody has any ideas or has any experience of that. I won't go to one person just in case you don't, but I'll throw it out there. So if anybody wants to chip in, then please do.
I'll jump in. In terms of the running community, there's been a lot of kind of focus on virtual challenges. So things to do with like the 3 Peaks challenge I did was a virtual challenge. I've done some ones we've just got to run twice a week, and it's a bigger community, but other people are doing it with you because you've all signed up, but it's not, you don't have to engage, you're not all doing it at the same time, you don't have to log on and be visible. It's just knowing you're part of a bigger community in something, which I've personally found really good, because I can't virtually run with someone, but I can sign up to something and be a part of a community taking part in something.
Fantastic. Thanks, Naomi.
I think as well that I've been thinking about this actually, that for those that can't connect virtually or don't want to, or are anxious about doing so, that maybe now we should be thinking about going back to paper form, or having a checklist or diagrams of what people can actually do from their own homes, and using their not equipment but using items from in the home, like tins, bottles, and just really letting them know, informing them of what body parts it can work with, what body parts does what, and what they can do for each body part in picture format. So that way that we're covering all bases, so those that can't or cannot access virtual online classes or go outside with others, they can actually take part in some form of physical activity via picture form. Just an idea. Going back to basics really.
I think, Andrew, I completely agree with you. I've got little bits of paper all around the house of a little activity I can do, whether that's in the garden. It's got a minute of star jumps, a minute of this, and all it is a piece of paper with some words on it, but it's a structure to follow, and that can help when you're really not feeling that you've got, I've got this little plan to follow. I don't have to log on, don't have to do anything fancy. It's just me and my piece of paper. Go back.
And they could just tick it off as they go along, and I know someone comes around to collect it, so you're part of something. I don't know, just so that that you're taking part in someone, you are accountable to somebody. And I don't know how it would work, but that's just me, my trying to be creative side of it. I think that should be a good step, paper format.
And I think that also highlights a challenge, and something that that organisations like Mind are thinking about how we can work in partnership with different sectors. I mean, for example, if you've got people have shopping delivered, what happens if you had a little some of those diagrams or some information about a few activities that you could do which are slipped in with your shopping, so you've got that, or communicating kind of activities that you can follow through the radio or through TV programs. We get onto that just as we close. Hamid, I don't know whether you're still there. If there's anything that you wanted to add about how we engage with people who aren't online.
I think how to engage with people who are not online is to use different platforms. Like, I know some people, they're not online, but they listen to the radio, they watch TV, they buy a newspaper, they speak to people, they phone people. So, like, for example, my mom is not online, but I am. So sometimes information is cascaded down to my mom through me. Sometimes to my older aunties and uncles is cascaded through me. So I think it's about finding other routes to get to people, the messages. And I think that it's great we've got all these social media platforms, but you can't beat the old traditional methods of like a leaflet or a little ad in the newspaper or something in a shop window or something in your local leisure center. So let's keep our traditional ways of reaching out to people and use the social media platforms to get a wider audience, or encourage people on social media to share the message with those who are not online.
Fantastic. Sorry, Hamid. Yeah, no, that's really important that we use kind of different approaches to reach different people, and not to the internet is a really powerful tool, but it's not for everybody, and I think we've got to be mindful of that. And make sure that we do look at those approaches that all three of you have mentioned in order to engage as many people as possible. I'd like to first of all just like to kind of thank Andrew, Naomi, and Hamid for your fantastic insights and ideas. I will come back to you just for some final thoughts in a few minutes, but I just wanted to quickly share my screen again, just to go through some of the kind of support that's already out there, and I think that has already been touched upon really by our speakers today. So sorry, just waiting for my screen to share with you. Right, hopefully you should be able to see my screen. I can see Naomi and Andrew in my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you give me a thumbs up? Thank you. So just quickly to talk about a few other areas of support. So as a physical activity team, we produce a monthly newsletter which kind of keeps you updated about everything that we're doing, and our partners in the sport and physical activity sector doing as well. So if you want to join the mailing list, then if you email sport@mind.org.uk, then we can we can sign you up to that. Mind has some really great hints and tips and guidance about mental health and coronavirus. How you can sort of stay safe and stay well, as well as kind of some findings from a survey that we recently conducted with about 16,000 adults, and also with a large number of children and young people about their kind of thoughts and experiences over the last 3 months. I did read this yesterday, so I've just put it in. I've heard that there is going to be an NHS COVID-19 recovery service, which is due to be launching in I think late summer or autumn, and as part of that, I know that they will be publicising tips around getting active and exercise. So that's one thing to say, is that I can imagine that it is going to be quite a popular service, because it's aimed at people who have been impacted by the virus and had it. So it's kind of helping those people in the medium to long term. But the one thing I also will say is that if you are concerned about getting active for health reasons, then always the first point of contact would be a doctor or a health professional. As you may expect, we have a lot of information on the Mind website. Our Get Active, Feel Good web pages are probably some of the most relevant for a lot of people who are joining the call today, as they've got lots of kind of tips on different activities that you can do, with, whether you've got any equipment or no equipment, if you haven't got much space or haven't got much time, and also signpost you to lots of kind of online activities and sessions which are readily available. And for those who are joining us from physical activity sector, then we have very recently released our return to play guidance for physical activity sector staff about how you can look after your own mental health and well-being, as well as that of participants in your sessions and volunteers and your various audiences. And again, just another signpost to our web pages where we've got information which is aimed at coaches, about again which is also aimed at organisations, and I think, as has been mentioned earlier, information about our free mental health e-learning course, which is aimed at sports sector staff. Kind of finally as well, as Hamid mentioned, Mind is also part of the We Are Undefeatable campaign. So We Are Undefeatable launched last year, and it's aimed at anyone with a kind of long-term health condition, and for people of a range of abilities, to help them look at how they can kind of be more active and support them to kind of overcome the barriers that stop them from becoming active. So this is supported and delivered by 15 health charities, and as I say, Mind as well. We've got some really great tools which are part of We Are Undefeatable. You may have actually seen some of the adverts on TV, working with the Sunday brunch program, where they've got a Sunday crunch slot to help people get active. I've got 5 in 5, which is a tool to help you choose between kind of 5 mini exercises that you can do, as well as a kind of a whole range of information and resources which are aimed at kind of different health conditions. So it's definitely worth checking out We Are Undefeatable and having a look at some of the great resources that are on there. So I see that we are not bad, just after 3 o'clock. So I'd just like to thank everybody for joining us today. And obviously a massive thanks to Andrea, Hamid and Naomi for sharing your experiences and really being the stars of the show. I just